And we're live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the imho.love show. I'm Lou Angelwolf, and this is Mike Murburg.
Hello.
Welcome to the show. Here we are at Area 52 in West Central Florida. And we're right here at the Darby Ranch, and we're also at the same site as our Skywatch, which we have coming up on Saturday. And welcome aboard. Hi, everybody. And the show is sponsored by disabilityattorney.net. That's disabilityattorney.net. That's Mike's practice. Any questions with your Social Security or disability claims, this is the guy. Treat you fair, treat you nice. Well, you see how he is. We've been doing the show for many years. So that's the guy you want rooting for you. Well, welcome. It's the end of January, 2022. I think I put 21 on the thing. I'm not used to that yet. But
You're usually just a day late and a dollar short.
a day late or a year, whatever. Isn't time all very relative anyway?
Well, it's still January. You're allowed to get away with 21 until February 2nd.
Well, it's been a heck of a month so far. We're in West Central Florida, and the temperature's actually gotten down into the high 20s, low 30s, just for a little while. And the days get pretty nice. But that's the routine here in January, February, March. You run the heater in the morning, the air conditioner in the afternoon, and then the heater on the way home. So you keep your climate control pretty adjusted. But beautiful time of year here for us. Not shoveling anything other than our standard bullshit that we carry with us.
And cow shit.
Oh, we got plenty of cow shit here these days. Yeah, they're really pooping these days.
Feed them good.
They do feed. Yeah, the world's most peaceful lawnmowers. IMHO, in my humble opinion, .love. I'm Lou. That's Mike. We have, we're like the, this is the radio show, podcast, video cast, however you want to put it, that supports our Skywatches. And every month where there is no moon, which is coming right up, we gather out here in the field, out here at Area 52. And we call it Area 52, of course, because of Area 51. And we're right off of State Road 52. So it was just a pretty good snap-in fit there for a nickname. And if you go to the meetup site, which is Tampa Bay CE5 Darby Ranch, Florida. That's where you can find out more information about the logistics and the requirements of attending a CE5. But CE5s they're all over the world now, man.
Yeah. World is waking up.
Well, it's about time. It's about time. And so this is one of the weekends we have. We're not necessarily rain or shine. Rain kind of shuts us out, but cold temperatures doesn't bother us. We build a nice bonfire in the middle, and you can dress accordingly, bundle up. You know what I have on, Mike?
Your heart imprinted boxers. I don't know.
Yes, my fluffy white heart boxers.
Yeah.
When I was out on the road, I bought a pair of flannel lined jeans. And, hey, they feel pretty good tonight. They're nice. Walking around with flannel on me. It's like outdoor pajamas.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
So, yeah, and I'll be wearing them again Saturday night at the CE5.
Yeah, it'd be cold enough to wear a union suit, that's for sure.
The union suit. Yeah, with the back flap and everything. That's fantastic.
Well, not so much a flap, but they've taken it down to a slit.
Really?
Yeah.
That's the way they do it now?
Yeah. Apparently, there was a problem with the flaps.
Well, actually, the flap kind of, in the cartoons, you always saw the flap with the buttons on top.
Yeah.
But actually, the buttons should be on the bottom to, if you're making that kind of port, to undo the flap and then just have it flop down that's going to drop in the water or whatever.
Apparently, they created too much controversy, which is why they went with the slit in one button. It's like, if you can spread your cheeks, you can open this.
All right, rock on. sounds like a nice camping weekend. Well, anyway, so like I said, we Floridians, it drops below 50. We start, bulking up, and
I don't know about you. I'm still wearing shorts.
I can tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. If you see Mike Murburg wearing long pants,
it's cold.
It's cold. So. This guy, he's one of those big dudes you always see in shorts, and it's 27 degrees outside. You're like, aren't you cold? No, I'm not cold. And he's not.
Not really.
Or at least he is, and he won't admit it.
No. I used to ski in shorts. So.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, you're hardcore, dude.
Yeah, you hit the ground though. You hit the snow, and but you get to the bottom of the mountain where it's not so cold anymore, and then all of a sudden the blood vessels come out, and your legs are all red because they've been all cut up by ice, 3,000 feet above. But
wow.
Hey, you live risky, you die risky.
Survival skiing.
So, yeah.
Well, cool. There's some stuff going on, just in nonsensical news. Apparently, a couple days ago, Neil Young gave the Spotify music company an ultimatum to either delete Joe Rogan or delete his music profile. Well, apparently tomorrow morning they're deleting the Neil Young music profile.
and you know what I have to say to Neil Young?
Yeah.
Don't let it get you down. It's only your castle burning.
Perfect, man. Perfect. I knew there would be
I used to be a fan.
A matching. I have the album Weld on CD, and
Right.
and that's by far. I mean, Harvest was great, of course, but that Weld album is, oh my God, does that thing kick ass? So, but hey, the guy made a business decision. Whatever, man.
Yeah, well, he can stand by his leftist principles and starve, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I'm sure he won't starve.
Yeah, he's woke, and guess what? If you're woke, you might as well, confess to being a walking, living dead.
Well, that's the extreme part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, there are a bunch of zombies.
We
know the truth, and this is it because we've been fed the truth from two news sources for the last 18 years. And both news sources are now down at the bottom of the bucket.
Yeah.
And they don't realize that the reason they're down at the bottom of the bucket is because nobody believes them because they're not truthful.
Well, you're right. You're exactly right. And all that has flipped. They used, CNN used to be the leading thing of everything, and now they've got like a 2% market share.
Right. The CIA network news.
Well, there you go.
There it is.
Yeah. And the other thing, too, about just to touch back on Neil Young, that whole movement that came out of Laurel Canyon, and Neil Young was in that group, there's a lot of, if you've been watching the show, we've covered this a couple times, that warring sanctions generally finance both sides of the war. So that way they can reap all the spoils when it's over. No matter who wins or loses, the winner writes the history and the loser gets rebuilt. But consequently, when you get rebuilt, you make a deal with the devil and it never really works out. But that whole thing, that whole Laurel Canyon movement, including Admiral Morrison's son, Jim, showed up out there, and that whole thing just came out of it was a very sudden thing. There was folk music, of course. There was Woody Guthrie and those earlier guys, great heartfelt talent and singing against the government, and
singing against fascism, and then all of a sudden the fascists took over our government, and there was no place for Woody Guthrie anymore and the likes of him, and this even goes back before then, because in the late 1940s, early 1950s, the CIA started funding the modern artists here in the United States.
The modern artists.
Yeah, Rothko. the whole gang.
I know Dali was in with it.
Well, they were all funded by CIA money. And why? I don't know. They wanted to get into a more subversive kind of thing culturally, and then they infiltrated the arts. They infiltrated National Public Radio for until recently. I haven't checked on the who's the director of NPR, but his predecessor for 20 years had been the news information director for the CIA. I mean, how
Wow.
obvious do you want this to get?
Right.
So if you people think you're getting the straight skinny from NPR or CNN or any of those news organizations, you keep on smoking that stuff you're smoking, because it's keeping you pretty well away from what the reality is here.
Suspended, and even Fox carries their own narrative.
Yeah, they do. And the thing is, it's one narrative versus the next, and it doesn't have to be. If you're in search for truth, you can find it. I get The Intercept. I subscribe to Glenn Greenwald, and a couple of other ones. Epoch Times. You get a pretty good score. Cheryl Atkinson.
Yeah.
I subscribe to her. So these are great news reporters, not propagandists. They report the news. That's why they're not allowed to report on the big news stations anymore, because what they've found and what they've said has been too harmful to the interests that control the world. Speaking of which, it came out the other day that the top 10 richest billionaires in America doubled their wealth in 2021.
Through the stock market?
Through, the value of their stocks and investments.
Wow.
And the rest of America actually
They were
lost
deep
ground.
in pharma.
So, they're they doubled their money in a year. Where else on the...
Yeah.
You ever doubled your money in a year?
No.
Yeah, I did. I was like 8, and then I was like 9, and
You picked up an extra lawn to cut?
I picked up an extra $11.
I'm expanding.
But it's like... it's astronomical. How do you do that? Bezos ends up getting divorced and splitting his wealth with his wife, and at the end, he was worth more than what he was before he got the divorce.
Wow,
that's just bizarre. If you don't think there's something wrong with that, what I just mentioned, man, you're not lit yet, man.
Well,
you just got to get it.
I don't even know if you can cut it down to right and wrong, but I think what it comes down to is aware and ignoring. If you're aware that there are big sides to every story, and you're willing to look at both sides in a neutral way, if you err on the side of reason, which I lean to the side of reason when it makes sense to me, you're going to see that all these changes and all these societal and media manipulations, they're taking shortcuts to push their agenda, because what's happening, people are waking up faster than they can get their stuff done. And stuff like, just this little thing with Neil Young, though. But what I was saying, and the fix is so far in on so much of this stuff. There's a great book, Weird Scenes Inside Laurel Canyon. I think McEwen was the writer, or McCown, I believe was his name. And great book, good read. And really, just things like, Jim Morrison from The Doors shows up with this huge, attaché full of all these incredible songs, all written. But he was never with a band. He was never, it's not like he played, the local pub scene or anything. He just came out as a singer. And I almost, the way they vaguely put it together, as far as Ray Manzarek and the other members of the band, it almost seems mechanical. And Morrison showed up with that portfolio of songs. They cut, I think, 7 albums altogether. I could be wrong. If you're a Doors head, I'm really sorry for not being completely accurate on that, but that's close. Maybe 5. I don't know. Then he theoretically died in Paris that night away. Don't forget his dad was an admiral in the Vietnam War who was also the dude that pulled off the Gulf of Tonkin scam, which theoretically started the Vietnam War. So you're talking about a dad that's way inside. He brings his handsome kid out there, and then all this starts, all this goes. He uses up the portfolio. He literally makes a dent in history. Really set some new parameters for his stage performance. But in the same vein, to where they would be controlling the modern art world, making it more avant-garde, tearing down, your standard American back in the 40s and 50s was not a long-haired dude wearing tattered clothes and pondering the universe. It was a nice clean-cut guy with a job and working and doing the whole thing. So apparently our method of life was working too well. So they had to come in and start undermining it because Americans were enjoying their capitalism. That whole chicken in every pot, and people had houses, and it was the whole American dream, which was a seduction unto itself.
Yeah, well, if I'm not mistaken, and just my brief Google and glance maybe proves it out, but Jim Morrison's dad was also involved in the strafing and the bombing of the USS Liberty, and was part of. It's been a while since I've been exposed to this. But that's when 74 American crewmen were killed by an unmarked Israeli fighter that was painted to be like an Egyptian fighter. Oh. He was in on that too.
Wow!
So he was the Navy's go-to fix guy.
He's a made guy.
Yeah, completely. And
so why wouldn't a made guy do something nice for his kid? Hey, I want to be a rock.
Exactly. Hey, I
want to be a rock star, Dad.
I got a nice job for you for the CIA. You're not doing so well at Florida State. Let's send you west and
he went to
business and
because they did a film. He was in a student film about admissions or something to Florida State University.
But he was also George Greer's roommate his sophomore year. George Greer was a judge here, a very good one, and I got to know him pretty well. But Greer was the judge in the Karen Quinlan case.
Oh my God!
Yeah, talk about a really screwed up unity of synchronicity. But yeah, they're walking a strange vibe. So Greer was a great guy too, and he waxed rather humorously on his time with Morrison at FSU. So. Wow. It's a small world, dude. It is.
But like Stephen Wright says, it's a small world, but I'd hate to have to paint it.
Yeah. This is the hand that shook the hand that, that was around Jim Morrison's neck more than twice as a student,
Well, and, and he had the whole, he had the arrest, where he theoretically exposed himself to the audience, which, of course, moved a margin. Okay, for as far as performers go. And Iggy Pop was sitting at home going, I'm going to do that. Anyway, one of these days. And so Morrison ran his course. He's in, theoretically, he's a junkie by now. His girlfriend is theoretically a junkie at that point as well. He's in Paris. Supposedly he dies from an overdose. And
sorry, I missed that. Could you say it
again? Sorry. Siri missed
that. He supposedly dies of an overdose. And then, and that's the story. And there's, and you can't say, oh, well, there's coroner reports. Really? Do you really think that the U.S. military has trouble fabricating coroner reports?
Right. Hey, or making bodies of known mastermind criminals disappear without any photographs as they were dumped overboard so it wouldn't offend anybody?
I don't think he's dead.
I know he's not dead.
Yeah.
I mean, and the only team that would have known anything about it miraculously gets exterminated within the next few weeks. SEAL Team 6.
On Morrison?
No, I'm Morrison. I'm talking about the Obama administration and Bin Laden.
Oh, yes,
The
yes.
whole thing. If none of this makes sense, if it makes sense to you, then you have taken the bait, hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah.
If this doesn't make sense to you, then you have an inquiring mind, and you deserve more than the inquirer. So,
And we thank you for tuning in. Okay, yeah, so you changed evacuation scenarios there.
I'm sorry. I got lost in instead of conspiracy theory, the whole science of what the fuckism. It's like, really?
Is that a word?
What the fuck is that? What the fuck is that?
Oh, I think.
What the fuck is that?
I think
It's
we've
like-
said it more.
It's kind of like you got like a brother-in-law or something, and he lies about everything. And after about 11 or 12 Christmases, everything he says to you is a lie, and you just kind of like, yeah, because he's a liar.
Morgan Fairchild, whom I have slept with.
Exactly. Why? Because they're acting.
Yes, exactly. But no, to get back to the Morrison thing, I really think
sorry.
they took his body out. I think he's alive and well somewhere.
Yeah, he's hanging out with Epstein.
He could be the doorman at Epstein's Island.
Right,
And
right.
Epstein's not dead either.
Right, he's probably living on an island across the bay or something.
Yeah, hey, I got another island. Don't worry about it.
That's just
Well, folks, we talk about this stuff every week, and we're very, very thankful for our regular listeners. You're why we do it. It's like there's days that you don't necessarily want to, well, actually we do. We want to do the show every week. We've really gotten to the point where we look forward to it. But there are days where it would be like going, oh, okay, all right, we're going to do it. Today's not one of those days. I'm actually really excited to do this show, and this is I'm going to announce it right here on the air, Mike. This is a day of personal growth for me. And it's funny. I notice in my own growth that right before something gets revealed to me, I get really low. I get really, it's like my soul is like making a port for this new piece of information. Okay. And who's calling me in the middle of the show? Oh man.
well, let's take a short break here.
Let me just make sure we're still on the air.
Yeah.
It's some kind of timer.
It's either that or your automobile warranty is no longer in effect.
Oh, it was just a weird timer. Okay.
Okay.
Hi, Mark. Hi, Nanette. I don't know how much. While I was fumbling with the phone, I must have set a timer. Okay. We've been talking.
I was going to say, if you're a conspiracy theorist, you would have been thinking, the CIA just did that.
To break our chain of thought.
Right.
They're onto something.
But we're not. That's just
Distract those stoners. Do something.
It's just some kind of synchronicity that was built into the program by us. But
Nice.
there's no conspiracy here.
Over the last several weeks, and over the last several years, I guess, the main thrust of this show, even though it's not written, is we're sharing spiritual enlightenment and the oneness of the Tao, and trying to present a more peaceful life for you through our experiences, through our reasoning, through our pretzel logic. We share what comes to us as truthful or believable or culpable. So, and we do that every week. And Mike is a wonderful teacher of the Tao. He is actually rewriting a commentary on the Wahoo Ching. If you subscribe to his homepage on Facebook, every couple of days there's a brand new interpretation of the Wahoo Ching, and they really are life-changing. If you take your time and you read through them and you contemplate what's being presented to you, it's soul-moving stuff. It really is. And it's so simple, you want it to be complicated because you think you really want to cross the finish line panting and bleeding. But you don't have to. It's so simple, but you can't see it from where you're at. It's that 359-degree thing we always talk about. The answer's right here on the other side of 1 degree, right here at 359.9 degrees. All you got to do is go 1/10 of a degree over, and you're there. But life sends us out on the journey, all around the circle, all making the mistakes, all leaping and jumping and failing and loving and breaking and crying and all the other shit that goes in the middle. So that way, when you get up to the 359-degree mark, you'll understand why things are about to come full circle. And I don't know where I'm at on that spectrum. I dare not even classify myself. But one of the things that I've been talking about the last few weeks is, I said that the church kind of laid down over the last couple years as we've been going through this pandemic and all these soul-wrenching predicaments in society. I really thought when this first started that, you'll have churches open and they'll be helping and sharing and sheltering and caring, but it was pretty quiet. It was pretty quiet. There were only a few people that really had the chutzpah, which is a Yiddish word, to step up and be a place for its people. Most places just closed down quietly and, sat and watched TV like everybody else.
Yeah, it was kind of like Y2K, the day after. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. Nothing happened.
That was a trip, man. And I smelled bullshit on that one in 1998.
Oh, you had all these books coming out at the same time too, as the planes were falling out of the sky and people were disappearing from planes while they're flying, and only certain Christians would be saved. I forget what that book was that I read.
Oh,
it's crazy.
Return? No.
But it wasn't anything like that.
Right, it wasn't anything like that. Left Behind.
Left Behind.
Yeah.
As opposed to Right Behind, which is where most of our followers are, and we're glad that we're leading you into whatever it is we are. So,
Like, my friend Nilsson does a line in his act. He goes, "The state of Pennsylvania has a saying on their license plate. It says, the Keystone State." He goes, "You've got a friend in Pennsylvania." He goes, "The line they didn't print was, he's right behind you, unbuttoning his pants." But anyway,
it was New Hampshire. Live free or die.
Yeah,
it's either that or it's fucking cold here.
Live free or move.
We can't speak until August. Our teeth have been clenched so long from shivering.
Yeah, was it?
Or New Jersey, the Garden State. Ha!
They were.
I mean,
they weren't standing in Fort Lee when they made that up.
Right, and these are government slogans,
Oh, yeah.
They still think they're viable.
Yeah. What was it? New Hampshire, live free or die. Les and Ken used to do a line and go, "Man, how do these people react to a cover charge?"
Yeah, really. Really.
$5? Are you mad? I'd rather die.
Yeah. Yeah, when I was living in Vermont, we used to go to there's a place nearby outside of town, and we used to go there. First time in, I was in a bit of a band, and they asked us, "Well, do you have a name for your band?" And I said, "Yes, we're the London Derriers." And they're like, "How do you spell that?" It's like, oh, come on, you really didn't get that?
The London Derriers, nice, nice. Nice.
I'm sorry, go on.
It's fun. No, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, but the Garden State thing, there are parts of Jersey that are just absolutely just beautiful.
Yeah, but compared to like Bayonne at 2:00 in the afternoon on July 7th, it's
Yeah.
like,
Oh my God.
yeah, you're not only going to
The garbage state.
You're going to get cancer. You get stuck in that traffic, you're just going to get cancer.
And just die right there in your car.
Well, 1/3 of all the people that live in New Jersey develop some kind of cancer.
Really?
And the reason it's not higher because a lot of people move out of the state of New Jersey and they get their
They
cancer
bring their
diagnosed.
cancer here.
They're diagnosed someplace else, but it's just like as unhealthy as it gets. So I'm sorry if you're
well,
from
glad
New
we
Jersey.
escaped.
You're from Southern Jersey. It's not that bad.
Yeah, Southern Jersey. By the time I got out of there at 69, so I don't think it was that bad yet.
Yeah,
But I moved back. I lived out in Freehold for a while back
Yeah.
in the early 90s.
Yeah, it's still central. So, but you're not getting hit with that. Oh man!
But there was a Folgers coffee plant in Freehold, and 3 days a
that
week,
stinks. Yeah.
3 days a week, Freehold, New Jersey smelled like somebody left the coffee pot on all day with this much coffee left in it.
Yeah, I used to work in Hoboken, just downriver from Hills Brothers Coffee. The same thing. 5 days a week, it smelled like, oh my God, some camel's asshole. Not that I know what that smells like, but I do have an imagination.
A dromedary or a backlift?
Bactin. What is it? Bactin. Bassitrin. I don't know.
Bactin?
Bassitration.
Bactine?
Yeah, something like that. Bactin.
How come dromedary is easy to remember?
It is because it's
Bactin-
a camel.
Yeah. They're the double humps, though. Dromedaries.
No, they're single humps.
They're the single humps.
Yeah, the Bactins is
The Bactins are the double humps.
double humps. Yeah.
Those are the ones that always make the cartoons.
Yeah.
The double humpers. Anyway, back on track, folks. What we've been talking about is subcontractors, everything with free, the free energy that Nikola Tesla had created that was about to release to the world. It got taken away, shut down, destroyed because Edison and the government promoted alternating current because you don't need an electronic infrastructure for free energy, for Tesla-style energy, free-flowing energy. So the fix has been in a really, really long time. And we talk about peeling back layers and this and that and the other thing, and why did this happen, and why did that, and what led to that. The first most confusing part is you don't know even if the history that you're reading is correct and dependable. Because every time there's a skirmish, to the victor goes the history and its recording. So you're going to get a side of the story. You're not going to get the real story. But there are real stories out there, and they're in the alternative news. They're in obscure places. They're presented by, James Corbett. They're presented by Robert Sepfer, Max Egan, all these people that are doing this for the love and the proper execution of it. The fact that it's a factual account that they can repeat to you, and you can make your assessment, your understanding will enter that way. It's not going to be drilled into you like this constant badgering about this flu that's going around. So as I've looked back on my own life, it's been a spiritual journey, and for those who've been watching for a while, you know that my mom had a extraterrestrial intervention while I was in utero. I was riding along, riding low. It was about a month before I was born. My mom actually had an extraterrestrial encounter at the water well with her mother standing right next to her. And I believe that's when I got my download or some little touch that happened to me. So I was, and I got to tell you, folks, I've always felt like a guest here. And I feel, and I'm a gracious one. I do love this planet. I love most people. I love everybody, but some people I don't have the time to get to know to find out what it is I love about them. So you just, you make your little assessments and you move on. And so that being said, I've always kind of sought for the extra spiritual, the side story, alternative news, what they call it these days, investigative journalism. And then in my life, in my own personal life, I had a born-again experience in 1991. I had a bad car crash, and, the beautiful pastor, Dr. Michael Guido, called me in my hospital bed and asked me if I wanted to give my heart to Jesus, and that if I had died in that car crash, I would have made it to heaven. And when you're laying there on your back and you're all broken up and you're in your legs in a halo and you ain't going anywhere, you're on a morphine drip. It sounds like a really good deal. Oh, wait a minute, you can take away all my sins, wholesale, one swipe, they're all gone. I'm in. Okay. Oh, and you're going to give me the gift of the Holy Spirit. Oh, and you're going to heal my wounds. Oh, you're going to fix my heart. It all sounded so wonderful. And it happened. It happened. And I was given, my spirit was elevated through that experience. I was a deeper soul. I'm deeper. I'm not saying that I have, I have my opinion and my honest presentation of it to you. You can interpret it as you want. But there was a profound change in me. I wasn't a bad guy before it started, but I knew I had my issues and, just certain things. So, like, for instance, I used to have these horrible nightmares, these night terrors. And it was the same scenario. It happened once a month, every month for, I don't know, I'd skip a month sometimes, but I'd get too tired or whatever. And I had this dream that kept reoccurring. I was in a hotel room and I was about to get in bed with a woman. And when I pulled the covers back, her body was all burnt to a crisp. And it used to wake me up just shuddering. It was like this horrible nightmare. And I don't know whether that was from a past life or whatever it was, or whether I saw something in a movie that stuck in my memory that I don't want to see again. But I used to get them. It was a night terror, actually, which was a grade up. And after I had my meeting with Messiah, it went away. I've never had that dream again, ever. In fact, I can't remember. I had a nightmare about 10 years ago, but that was about it. And so that being said, and, a lot of people have looked at my life. I mean, I was an active church member for a few years. I was part of the Heaven States motorcycle ministry. I preached. I did altar calls. I led people to the Lord. I said I've been to AA meetings, and I've witnessed in jails and prisons, and bringing the gospel. And then I got into the Messianic Jewish movement, and then I learned even more. I went to Israel, learned even more. And then what I found was the deeper I followed a group of people, the more narrow things became. That there were things that would disqualify you from their program. And I'm like, oh, that doesn't sound good. That didn't sit well with me. And then as time went on, I found out that these mindsets, they were becoming very inclusive, when I had in my heart, I knew that the creator of the universe, who made us all, loves everybody, not just what you've agreed to, or not whatever club you've joined, or not how you dare associate yourself. So I just look back and look back and look back. I mean, was this whole, I went to Israel to see where all this stuff actually happened. And I had a really, really interesting tour there, and it grew me up a fair bit. And we actually sent my son Isaac there right after he graduated high school. He spent 6 weeks there, hitchhiking all around the country.
And he got a bicycle.
Yeah.
Tired of hitchhiking.
Yeah. And he's a sharp kid. You can tell he's my son. He went to the bicycle rental place, and they wanted $65 a week to rent a bicycle. And he walked around the corner, and there was a guy selling used bicycles. And he had a nice used bicycle for about $60. And he said, hey, he goes, I'm going to ride this around for 6 weeks. And before I go back to America, he goes, can I sell it back to you? He goes, sure, I'll give you $40 for it. So my son rode that bicycle all around Israel for $20 for 6 weeks. So he's a smart kid. Anyway, as you start looking back on all the salvation history, and the reason I clung to it, I love that old expression, dance with the one who brung you. And that was the door that was open for me. And it was probably the most familiar within my society, hence making it an easier path for me to understand and agree with. But as you look back, there were certain questions and incongruencies in the scriptures because they've been so manipulated over the years. But the thing that always kept me from really going deep into this was the fact that I was given the gift of the Holy Spirit. I have been blessed with being able to heal, either through my hands or just through, it doesn't matter whether you're there or not. You can send healing energy all over the world. And I've done it with incredible results. People that I've prayed for, people that I've laid hands on have become healed. And it's not me. I'm just a conduit. It's like it just flows through me into them. It's maybe because I know how to ask, maybe because I'm bold enough to ask. And that's why I never challenged it real hard, because I had that real true experience, that born again gift of the Holy Spirit, clean inside out stuff. And I know that story's been told time and time again. And the whole thing has circled back into a challenge of darkness versus light. That's really what it all shakes down to initially, okay, is the dark versus the light. It's the good, the bad, the evil, the kind, whatever. But this story of a guy that leads a group of people, the underprivileged or the abused, or any mass of people actually, the first time, or the most popular time of its telling, was in 3000 BC, was the tale of Horus in Egypt. And very, very similar thing. He had the birthday of December 25th. He was born of a virgin. The three kings showed up. The Eastern Star. He began as a teacher at 12 years old. He had a ministry at 30 years old. He had 12 disciples. Even the names were the same. They called him the Lamb of God, the Light. And he was crucified, buried, and then after 3 days he was resurrected. 3000 BC. And then the same thing happened to Jesus or Yeshua. Okay, this is the story retold. And then in Greece, in 1200 BC, the story of Attis, same thing, virgin birth, same path. And then in 900 BC, it was Krishna. Now there's loose things, and there's colloquializations, and there's regional differences in these stories, but the actual actions are about the same. And then in 500 BC, you have Dionysus. And then in Persia, you have the whole Mithra thing. You got the virgin birth. You got the 12 disciples. And all these other names of these messiahs, these leaders, they all have a very, very similar story. It's the underdog winner on your behalf. Okay? This is the guy that you really want to follow. And those of us who do, we act this way. And it's been through Krishna, and then Osiris, Odin, Baal, Tammuz, Hesus. There's one called Hesus, Eros, Adonis, Prometheus. All very, very similar stories. All with that same birthday, which all denoted the beginning of the winter solstice, the day that the sun stalls for like 3 days. The 23rd, 24th, 22nd, 23rd, and 24th of December, there's hardly any sun movement. And then on the 25th, it starts its movement back up, and the calendar starts moving, and the days start rolling back the other way. All this stuff is a retelling of a astrotheological story. In fact, I heard a great phrase. It says that the Bible is a astrotheological literary hybrid. It's a good description, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it is, but you get too complicated for me. If you've ever read Joseph Campbell, one of his great works is A Hero with a Thousand Faces, and if you read Campbell and Young together, then you realize that what you've just mentioned are archetypal human stories that manifest the archetypes of the human collective unconscious. So, what you're reading is going only as far back as written history goes in whatever shapes or forms.
Right.
And this continues on today. This existed even before this stuff was written down. Only the names have been changed, to protect the innocent, so to speak. But you can see it in the way movies are produced today. The Hero with a Thousand Faces is the ultimate template for movies like Star Wars, and you can just name them because it involves a hero. It involves this hero comes from humble beginnings, and he battles against supernatural forces and overcomes the darkness and evil. And you don't need Jesus to be part of that. You don't need any of this to be part of it. It's the same story told over and over and over again, and we get it 12 times a year from Hollywood. We see it in the Marvel comics produced today. It's the same thing. They literally take Campbell's template on Hero with a Thousand Faces and work it out. Now you can also see it in Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. Same thing. How can you get more humble than Bilbo Baggins?
Right.
Same thing. And when it comes to the Holy Spirit, the gift of the Holy Spirit, well, Oz didn't give nothing to the Tin Man that he didn't already have.
Yeah.
So, and then
that's great.
It's true though, because what we do in Buddhism, one of the last talks that the Buddha gave before he died was, he says, we all have an island within us, and we retreat to that island, and when we find that island, we find ourselves. And as I'm leaving you, you have to realize that you can't come to me for advice anymore. You have my words, you have my doctrines, but you have to rely on yourselves. You got to go find that island within yourself, and that's what the Buddha taught. It's all about finding your own Buddha within. So just a little tip that I came by this past week from another Princetonian, somebody who taught there. And when we do our meditation, I know you do 4 breaths in and 5 breaths out, some 3 breaths in, 4 breaths out. Right. But rather than counting, some of the Buddhists who do this, they repeat the mantra, I will take refuge in the island of myself, as the in-breath. Okay. And then as the out-breath, they say, by taking refuge in the island of myself, I have become free. So that's, I like that. That's the meditative mantra. So that may be very helpful for people who are wondering how to do this and sure, haven't learned it yet, and maybe that'll help. So and what people don't get is in the kind of God sky god religions that we follow in the West, is that as a practitioner of the way, I would interpret it as religion is a product of the relativistic mind, and it's based in the conflict of dualities. Okay. Which is contrary to achieving universal consciousness, where you understand that, good and bad don't exist. You and I don't exist as opposites. It's all, as you say, like one big thing. And when you see these opposite things as not opposites, but energies in the same Tai Chi, in the same being, then there is no duality in regard to what you're conceptualizing. And that's the first step towards a unity consciousness, which is so important, at least I believe, and it's worked for me for a long time now. That's how you meditate, and that's how you meet ET, and that's how you bring non-human intelligences in. And so you can disregard all that stuff. You can unlearn all the crap that you learned about, your mother's going to go to hell because she's not the same religion as your father.
Right.
Your father's going to go to hell because he's not the same religion as your mother. I mean, that's the crap we're taught.
Right. Well, that's the control mechanism that they build into it.
Well, religion's all about control. And religion, any religion is like cattle farming. The more cows they get, the bigger the ranch. Okay.
Yep.
And the key is not to fall for it. Don't be a cattle. Don't be a sheep. Think for yourself. The consecrated vestibule of all spirituality is within your own heart. I mean, and once you learn that and you realize that your heart connects to the universal heart, the creator of all things, and that you're part and parcel of that creation and creator, then you get the proper picture, and then you can advance spiritually to more calming and peaceful matters.
Well, and right there, like I was saying, today was a day of revelation for me. So I had questioned this incredible spirit that I'd been given, and I didn't want to seem like an unthankful recipient. But what really kind of came on for me was in the last couple of days, I've been studying the placebo effect. Okay, where, most people know what that is. Like, you give a group of people and tell them that, like they do it for testing medicines. They tell everybody that they're getting the pill that's going to fix them. And within that mix of pills that they hand out, there's placebos they're a sugar pill or whatever, and they don't have the medicine in them. But the people have been told that they have the healing medicine in that pill. And the placebo effect it can be anywhere from 30 to 60% a sway, depending on the group of people, depending on the case in point. So that's what happened to me in that hospital room on February 20th, 1991, is the fullness of the spirit of the earth, the Tao, the presence of the Creator Spirit came into my spirit. I was ready to receive it, and I wanted a spiritual new beginning, and this was the conduit that it was given to me in. But as I've peeled back and heard this story time and time again, I don't so much argue the semantics, but what actually happened to me. Like, for instance, there's a great teacher out there, Joe Dispenza, who had broken vertebrae in his back, and they told him he needed this big, dangerous surgery, and he said, no, I'm going to heal myself. And in 8 weeks, through prayer and meditation, he had the power over his own body, and he healed himself, and hence that story has launched him into worldwide acclaim as a healing guy and a believing guy. And it's through meditation and through that same realization. In other words, he didn't necessarily link it to any particular sect or any particular avenue of information, but he almost took the placebo of the generic ability to heal and commune with the oneness of the earth, the energies from the earth, the healing energies from the earth, and he let himself be healed because he believed. And I think the actual semantics of what you believe is the arguable part, and I don't even think you need it, because you are part of one big thing, and that's why war seems so ridiculous to us that are peaceful. This whole thing got started 5 years ago when I wrote this paper called The Pacifists Riot. It was time for we pacifists to really start questioning what's going on. What's going on? Wait, we all are told that the golden rule, the peaceful way, the path, the El Camino, that we are all one thing. You're my brother. I'm your brother. I am you. You are me. We learn from each other. We help each other. And we live together on this beautiful planet. And we have this harmonious life. And somewhere along the line, somebody throws in all these static charges that really aren't welcome. They disrupt our flow. And that's what I've been sorting through. So today was an absolutely beautiful day when I realized the plainness and the simplicity of the spirit that I invited into my soul, and then the actual something as simple as placebo effect could be the explanation for my healing energies and that kind of thing.
Simplicity, patience, and compassion.
Simplicity, patience, and compassion. That's the Tao, isn't it?
Compassion for yourself as well. So
yeah,
that's what healing is all about.
Yeah, man. How you feeling?
Healed. No, actually, you mentioned it. I've survived 2 types of cancer, and the miracle of the eye. Cancer of the retina.
Your eye looks great, by the way.
Well, it's getting there. I did have a massive hemorrhage a year ago because they pumped me through full of blood thinners when I had the heart attack. But the miracle is after 12 years now that an eye that they were going to extract, and they have no explanation for it, that at its very best was never expected to get any better than 2400, is now 20/20, and what used to be a tumor blocking 25 to 30% of the vision of the eye in the upper quadrant is almost non-existent in the visual field.
Wow.
And then the heart attack where where according to the sonogram there was a moderate infarct of the septal wall with suspected arterial blockages when they went after 2 CE5s. They came in December to do put stents in, and they found that there was absolutely no blockage in the arteries, and there was absolutely no necrosis or death that they had seen in the septal wall.
Wow!
So you talk about healing. I mean, and both the doctors, the specialists who treated me in the eye, basically says there's no explanation for what happened. The radioactive materials that your eye was exposed to should have killed off all the tissue for good. I mean, it killed off the tumor, but it didn't kill off the rest of the eye, and especially after they had placed the radioactive plaque over the optic nerve. That should have just completely killed it. And everybody I've seen, and we're talking USF and the heads of departments have said, we have no explanation for this. And that's the same thing they had with the heart attack. I said, well, and they said, this is a miracle. We have no explanation of this. What are you doing? And I didn't tell them, I've been to a couple CE5s and I meditate a lot, and I think about things, and this past week I compared. I have heart arrhythmia, but the way my heart is today, I compared it to where my heart was going into the heart attack. It was really I've got an app on the phone. It's really quite good. And you could see where there was severe arrhythmia. I was having an arrhythmia before the heart attack, before the dehydration and the ultra heat and working too hard, where my heart rate got up to 183 beats a minute for about a day or two. Yeah, it calmed down to 143, but it's totally erratic. And you compare, even after the cardiovert, it became perfect for a while. But even now, compared to where it was, it's more like the perfection after the cardioversion than it is anything like the arrhythmia that existed beforehand. Mm-hmm. So I really, when I was 40, I had the stress test done, I had an ejection fraction of 57, which is normal, and it's probably good for a 40 or 50-year-old guy. When they did my last stress test, I had an ejection fraction of 57%. So,
Yeah.
Go
So your
figure.
blood pressure was awesome this morning,
Yeah.
like an athlete.
Yeah, well, the whole thing. And what I do is every morning I think about my heart healing, and I know the area of my heart that needs to be healed because there's in the upper left ventricle, there's a part of the heart in people with arrhythmia where there's a malfunction of the cells. As you get older, for one reason or another, those cells start misfiring and they cause arrhythmias. So what I do every morning is when I get up, I take about 3, 4, 5 minutes, and I think about my heart beating in a healthy manner and without an arrhythmia and as calmly as possible. And then I take my EKG on the phone, and it's pretty beautiful. I'm really in a good place with it. It's so much different than where it was 1, 2, 3 years ago. So you can heal yourself.
Absolutely. Well, you're living proof.
Oz didn't give it to me anything he didn't already have.
That's true. That's true. Well, ladies and gentlemen, man, I think we burned up an hour on you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Like I said, the show is sponsored by disabilityattorney.net, spelled just like it sounds, disabilityattorney.net. That's Mike's practice. If you have any questions on your disability or Social Security.
We don't expect anybody to call, but it's nice to be able to take the deductions.
Okay. You can look at it that way.
For what it's worth. Why not? It's a truthful way to look at it.
Like, share, subscribe to the show. Whatever we got in trouble a couple weeks ago for something we said. I didn't even track it down. Just don't look behind.
Yeah, it was crazy.
And Kathy McGuire loads all these shows up for us on BitChute and Podbean and YouTube. Yeah, YouTube. We violated a YouTube code. And
we told the truth about something.
Yeah, must have.
Yeah. How they came up with that anti-COVID thing, I don't know. Or whatever it was.
Kid Rock's got a new album out, new song out. Yeah. I sent it to you on the phone. I don't know if you heard it yet. It's pretty wild.
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Well, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. We're here almost every Wednesday night at 7:30 Eastern Time. And like I said, like, share, subscribe, tell your friends. We try to make a valid point. These are our opinions. Which really, if you shake it all down, when you look at the actual tenacity of most print, it is an opinion. I don't know if tenacity was the right word there.
Voracity.
Voracity was the word I was looking for.
Yeah, it's that short-term memory thing.
Yes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to imho.love.
Thank you, audience.
Yeah, sound of one hand clapping over there. And thank you so much. Let's see, who said hi? There's Mark, and that's still there. And let's see, I can see around the corner here. Hi, Sue. Thank you so much, everybody. Daniel, love you guys. You're awesome. You're the reason we do it. And like we say almost every week, because I forget some weeks, use your head, trust your gut, but your heart will take you home. And that's what we talked about tonight. So you're always in our prayers, and we really mean that. So, hey, Mark, hey, Sue. Y'all be good now. Have a great week. Catch you next week.